so number 2 is communication skills. So communicating, like I said, talk about what you enjoy. Talk about, for example, we had a dealer at a casino that I used to work at where he loved riddles, and they were hard, and you actually had to sit there and try to like figure out these riddles. And he would have players come from all around the valley just to sit at his table, so that way they could do riddles together, because they were big on riddles. And the casino made so much money because of that, and he got a lot of tips because of that. So again, be buddies, talk about something you enjoy. Also, to remember, say thank you, say please, use the guest's name. You want to do those common manner type of things when you're communicating with the player. Another thing, what not to say to the player. So, of course, we could talk about all the things you can say, but let's talk about some of the things you don't say to a player. You don't display negative body language. Don't cross your arms. Don't look or act disinterested. Basically, don't gain up on players. I know some players gain up on other players, and they're like, you got to play by the book, or you have to do this, or why are you betting this way? Don't gain up on players, because you're there as a dealer to give an experience to the player, and you want it to be a good, positive experience. You don't want it to be a negative experience. If you give the players a negative experience, they're going to leave your table. They're not going to tip you. And then you're going to go around being like, well, why isn't anyone tipping me? Well, how are you acting? What kind of experience are you giving the players? So you don't want to drive players away. If the player, like say, for example, does give you a tip, then acknowledge it, thank the customer, but also to say it out loud. Like, thank you so much for the tip. Really do appreciate it, and then tap it and drop it. And the reason why you say that is because by verbalizing that someone gave you a tip, now the other players are going to be like, oh, I could give them a tip too. So that's why it's really good. Thank you so much for the tip. Really appreciate it. And then you have player on, first base being like, you're a really good dealer. Let me give you a tip too. And then you have another player on third base being like, you know what? These 2 people just tipped you. I think I'm going to give you a tip too. And I've had it personally myself, my experience, the whole table end up giving me a tip before I get tapped out, just because one person did it and I verbalized it. So
I'm sure you have.
It's a small thing that you could do that ends up getting you more tips. One last thing, and I'll stop. As a dealer, you're basically a mini therapist. You want to stay positive. You want to, listen to the players. Sometimes players just want to sit at your table and talk your ear off. That's okay. Listen to them, empathize with them, see it from their perspective, act sort of like a mini therapist. And I guarantee you, some players are going to stay at your table for hours and hours and hours, but they'll also tip you while they're doing that.
So I want to remind everybody that all of these amazing insights that Heather's providing will make you more money as a dealer if you learn them properly. And so, all right, communication skills was number 2. That's the thing that you said, and I'm like furiously taking notes as I'm hearing all the stuff that you're saying in order to be able to compare it properly. So talking about what you enjoy is sort of where you started. And you gave the example of the person who really enjoyed riddles in order to create connection and all that stuff. And in poker, it's really hard to talk, period, because like I said, it's going to influence the game. And I have seen dealers that sort of walk the line, right? And in poker, if you're able to engage people without it taking away from the game, and it takes an incredible amount of knowledge and experience in order to be able to do this well, if you can do this thing in poker and find the right moments to do it, you will absolutely crush it with tips. But if you're in my room and you do this and it affects the game, I'm going to be upset. So it's one of these things that's really difficult. And I will say this, in tournament, there's almost no benefit to you for it. So a poker dealer in tournament, you do not get tipped per hand. It doesn't really make that much of a difference. You just want to crank them out and get the tournament done quicker, because then your tips will be higher. So for tournament, it wouldn't make any sense to do this. And the good tournament dealers are very quiet and just do their job very, very well. But that was a really good insight. And I have even seen poker dealers try to have players figure out riddles and stuff like that, the equivalent of that. Saying thank you for tips is certainly the same for table games and poker. Poker has this thing that's really built in that makes it nice, where tips are very automatic. Table games are a bit less automatic, and the thing that you described is a very powerful insight. But as a poker dealer, if you do not say thank you, you will give that player who probably doesn't want to tip as much as they do because it's automatic, you'll give them a reason not to do it. And, you know, creating connection is the other opportunity you get when you do say thank you and make them actually feel thanked. It's very powerful. Also in poker, you don't want to overthank anybody. It's a weird dynamic where when someone gives you a tip, you have to act cool. Otherwise, you're actually going to discourage them, is what I've noticed. In table games, it's more interactive in the first place. So you can be overly like something, I don't know, something like that. Yeah.
Jazz hands.
Jazz hands, exactly. Now you said no negative body language, don't gang up on players, don't give negative experiences. It's a different thing for each, but it's super on point for both. And I really like that. And my last note that I put here was do not be a therapist as a poker dealer. Table games, it totally makes sense. But as a poker dealer, you just don't have time. The only person I've ever seen do this effectively was someone who he would get up from the table and instead of going to break, he would be a therapist standing in the room. He was so likable that they let him do it. You're sort of not supposed to do that. It's like get your job done and get out. But in poker, everything is not house is money, so it's a little bit less strict like that.